Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of CEO and Market Expert Interviews. I'm your host, Lucy, and some of you know me as Triangle Investor from X. As promised, we invited back Stephen Roman, CEO of Global Atomic, and he accepted the invitation. So, Stephen, welcome once again to my show. It's great to have you.
Lucian, thank you very much for the invitation. It's great to see you again.
The pleasure is all mine. I have a lot of questions from my followers, and this interview will be a combination, a mix of my questions and the questions from my followers, which are in a big part related to the financing. But my first question, Stephen, is actually very simple. Is Dasa project development and production safe from the scenario that happened to Goviex Maduela project?
Well, we've been asked that question many times, as you can imagine.
Yes.
And I would say that, yes, we are absolutely safe. There's never been in the history, and there's been a number of different coups since 1970 in Niger. There's never been a history of nationalization of an asset or of a project. The Goviex and the Orano issues was strictly related to permit expiry. Our permits are in good standing. They're not expiring, and we have fulfilled everything by the letter of the law in Niger. The government's very happy. They've said so publicly on television across the nation that Global Atomic and SOMIDA are a standout project. They've been spending money, doing what they said they're going to do, and we're very excited about what's happening at the site. So, you know what? I don't think that there's any issue of that happening to us.
Okay. So you have 100% support from the government.
Yes.
Okay. Stephen, you closed private placement last week by raising $20 million. Who were the participants, and who took the big part of that financing? Are those the old shareholders or some new names entered here?
You know what, Lucian, we went out to raise 15 million. It was sold out in 2 hours. We upsized it to 20. It was a combination of institutional and retail investors, actually, with most of our institutional shareholders participating. So we have very good support from the institutions, both in Canada, the US, and abroad, Australia, for instance, as well as retail shareholders. So it was well received. I mean, the pricing was very favorable, and it was sold out very quickly.
Yeah. How much was taken from the insiders? I saw the SEDI filings, and I saw that some names took some positions over here. But can you tell me more? How much was taken from the insider side?
Well, from a percentage point of view, I couldn't really say. I know that I took down, I think, 25,000 units. Our CFO took 20,000 units. There's some other people in the company that took down some of the financing as well. But, you know, we want to get a broader shareholder base. We don't want to come in there and start taking large amounts of these things. And of course, we've been buying shares all the way along since inception of the company in 2005. And, you know, I've accumulated quite a large share position, basically buying in the market and accumulating stock over almost 20 years.
Yeah. Stephen, the big question, how will you finance the project build going forward? And has anything actually changed with your strategy on that front?
Well, you know what? Everybody knows that we're working with a U.S. development bank. Those discussions and that is progressing, I must say. The timelines that these banks take is a lot longer than what you would normally potentially have in industry with tier 1 banks. These are development banks that are involved. They've got to be comfortable with the situation there. And of course, since the coup last July, there's been a lot of I would say, news coming out of the country that gives the banks some nervousness, and they need to speak with us. They need to speak with people on the ground. They need to send people there to do due diligence, and all of that takes time. And so, we are still progressing with that. That would be the prime focus, to get that bank loan over the line, and that is still progressing. But we also are in discussions with a couple of potential financial players, strategic, like countries. There's a couple of different countries that are involved in Niger at the moment, including Turkey, where we have a good relation, of course, having an operation there. And so we're looking at situations like that where we could JV a minority interest. We're also looking at different financial structures, including a uranium-backed bond.
Yeah, so you have a lot of options on the table, JV, debt, you have a lot of options, definitely. But for how long are you willing to wait for the funding from the bank before going actually to JV?
Well, you know what? Right now we have to spend, based on our bank terms of 60/40, we have to spend our 40% of the equity first, at any rate. So we didn't expect to draw down from the bank until sometime probably end of Q1, early Q2 next year. So effectively, the idea was that we would have the bank committing this year, probably Q3, Q4. That would allow us to actually then ascertain what is the final amount of money that we require to cover our equity contribution. And then we would have ways of doing that because, of course, once the bank is there, we have a lot of other players that are interested, including groups that want to do offtakes with a prepayment, but only if the bank's there. So there's a bit of a domino effect here. If the bank comes in and everybody's comforted by that, then there's going to be other financing options for us that allow us to cover that remaining amount of equity we need. In the meantime, of course, we have a project that's in the construction phase. There's 450 people working at site at the moment. That's going to be ramping up. And we've got a lot of work going on that requires us to raise capital all the way along so that we make sure that the project moves ahead unabated. And right now we are still on schedule to complete that plant by the end of next year and start producing uranium in Q1 of 26. So, we're moving forward on that schedule right now.
Yeah, so there will be no delaying in the current perspective, right?
At the moment, no delays. That's correct.
Okay. One other question, you mentioned offtakes. Is there an option or possibility that offtake alone could finance the rest of the construction?
There is a possibility, but again, we have a number of parties waiting in the wings for the bank to make the final decision, whether they're in or they're out.
Stephen, what about the equity raise component? You mentioned some, but can you give me some more color on that? What kind of raise? Would that be one raise or more raise? Can you give me some color?
Lucian, I don't know at this point in time. We're moving forward with the project. We're looking at different options. We're looking and speaking with people on JVs. So it depends how fast these things can move forward and get done before you can really make a definitive answer on what type of financing it would be.
Okay, I understand. And with JV, can you talk more of percentages of the JV? What do you expect here?
Well, it would be a minority interest, I would say, Lucian, at this point in time. So, it's all up to negotiation. Of course, we don't want to give up very much of this project if at all. We'd rather keep our 80%, the government, our partner, with 20%, if we can get all of the other financing components put together. But if somebody wants to come in, they're going to want to have a meaningful enough interest, we would always maintain control and an ownership position for sure. We wouldn't be giving that up.
Yeah, yeah. The presentation of the debt financing facility to the credit committee was postponed to August. Can you explain, please, to viewers who didn't catch that information, why is that postponed?
It was postponed for a couple of reasons. One was the pulling of the permits from Orano and Goviex. That happened just prior to that date, that credit committee date. And the Benin border not opening yet. And one other point was the departure from ECOWAS. So the bank wanted to have answers from us on how those things will affect us. So, of course, we explained the situation on the permit expiry for Orano and Goviex. We explained the situation with ECOWAS. That does not affect us. And we also explained that discussions are ongoing relating to the Benin border. And we expect that to be opened at some point quite soon, because the big question that the Niger government had was whether the French were setting up military bases on the other side of the border. So the Benin delegation said, well, listen, come and do your due diligence, look at those areas. If it looks clear and you feel that you're not threatened, then let's get this border opened. There's big pressure from not just us or the Chinese who have the oil flowing through there. Orano wants to ship uranium through there to the port of Cotonou, but local business people in both countries are being stymied by the fact that that border's closed. I mean, it's affecting a lot of people more than just international investors.
Yeah. Last week, Niger introduced a new directive related to the companies in mining and hydrocarbons. My impression is that that is actually positive for you, as you have implemented much of what is stated in there. But there are some odd items, like you need additional insurance from a Nigerian insurer. My question is, can they even provide such coverage, and will this create additional delays with the banks?
No. We have already local insurance companies doing insurance for us. What's typically different is that their costs are higher than having an international company do the insurance. But we do have, and we have utilized already, local insurers for some of our operation.
So all is covered with that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Has Dasa been affected in any way by heavy rains and floods that we saw in Niamey?
No, it has not. We have had rain up there. As a matter of fact, I think this year in 2024, I just heard by speaking with the site this morning, there's been 90 millimeters of rain, which in the grand scheme of things for most people is not very much rain, but it is the desert. And what typically happens in the desert is you have these couries, these dry riverbeds. And when it rains a lot, of course, the ground is dry and hard and all the water runs into these riverbeds. So it naturally flows where it's supposed to flow, so to speak. There was one issue between Agadez and the site where a bridge was washed out. I think that appeared on social media.
Yeah.
But 3 days later, they had that repaired, not the bridge, but they had the route through that courie repaired and traffic was flowing again. So that's been opened up.
Okay. Stephen, I saw the news where IMF completed the 4th and 5th reviews of the extended credit facility arrangement. Do you believe that is a positive sign where the development banks can get comfortable as well?
Absolutely, Lucien. Yep. They put in, I think, $75 million.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think France was the only one that voted against it. So they're not really ingratiating themselves in the country. But it went ahead. And so there are normal relations happening. And of course, that gives the development banks a lot of comfort.
Yeah. Let's assume everything goes well and you start to produce in the next years. Is the dividend payment as an option still on the table, or you would prefer to do a share buybacks to increase the value and fix the damage of raising money at low levels and diluting?
Yeah, well, what I've told people on these types of interviews before is that, don't worry so much about share dilution, worry about getting the project built. This project will kick out a $250 million of free cash a year. You'll have a lot of money to be able to buy back shares. We've done that in the past with other projects, other companies. So keep your sight focused on getting the Dasa project built. That's really going to drive the value, and people shouldn't be short-sighted about some share dilution. So you know what? That's really what we're focused on, is getting the project built, Lucien.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I answered all of your questions, or you just still had something on that
No,
question.
with regards to that, no, I have another question, and that is, can you provide us an update for Befesa?
Befesa, oh, that's running well this year. Last year was a disaster with all the earthquakes in Turkey. And of course, we didn't make money last year, but this year we should be very profitable. So zinc prices come up a little bit. We thought maybe it would continue at the $1.30 per pound range. It's now back down again to what, $1.12, $1.15, something like that. But we are running profitably, and there seems to be a revival on the steel industry in Turkey. The mills are producing more, so we get more waste to treat. Of course, we are a recycling operation that cleans up waste from steel mills and makes a value-added product out of it.
Okay, so good news from Turkey. I asked you a few times in my prior interviews about the possibility of selling Befesa. Has anything changed in your views about that?
Well, you know what, we've thought about that as well. I mean, it's a small component of Global Atomic, and of course, once Dasa gets up and running, it's going to be a very small component. We have spoken to our partner about it. Everybody's of the view, listen, let's get a couple of good years behind us and get all the local debt paid off. You're going to have a much more valuable asset. It's really not the time to sell it right now. And frankly, there might be other players out there that would like to buy our interest as well. So, we have not put it on the market, but it is an option.
Yeah, maybe during the years you will buy their share. Is that an option?
Maybe.
Why not?
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Stephen, how much money do you have after this raise in the till altogether?
Well, I mean, we had to pay some commissions on that, so that brought in about 19 million or so, and we've been, of course, paying bills and keeping the project moving along. I would say we've got enough for, the next few months, and by then, hopefully, we hear some news on the balance of the financing we need.
Okay. That is my final question, actually, about the news. What are the next milestones in the coming months and for the company, and when can investors expect further news flow?
Well, you know what? For instance, our earthworks now are well underway. We've also completed our acid plant, which is a big component of our processing plant. That was built in India. It's now ready to ship to site. We've got a 250-man camp that's now arrived at site that's going to be expanding our current facility. We've got a whole bunch of construction on new housing going on there right now. The SAG mill is now being completed, and a few other of the large components. They'll all start arriving at site as well over the next few months. So, that this project is in full swing, and we're very excited about keeping it going on schedule.
Yeah, Yeah, one of my followers actually asked me to ask you when we will see new pictures on your website from the site.
Well, we do have some that we get every week in our reports. We could probably put a few extra ones on the website. Typically what happens is when I go there, and of course I was there in June, I took a bunch of pictures. I think we showed some with the mines minister, etc. But you know, I will mention that to our team here about maybe getting a few updated photos that we can put on the website.
Yeah, do that because people love to hear, love to see the new pictures. Sorry, Steven, this is the last one. I want to hear your comment on the uranium market and the, let's say, on the current pullback in uranium equities. What's your take? 2 minute
Well, you
answer.
know what? That's a great question. So we were looking at some charts the other day, Lucian, and we noticed that the uranium equities are back to where they were in 2020. And when uranium was $16 or $18 a pound, the term price is now $80 plus a pound. And you know, it's just staggering to me that nobody has been really fired up about this discrepancy in valuation. So the nuclear business right now is booming, frankly. There's so many reactors being built around the world. There's SMRs now that are going to be starting to be built soon. I think that the order book for SMRs is into the hundreds around the world. There's been no factoring of uranium demand for those SMRs. We're already running at a 40 million pound a year deficit in uranium supply. You know, the crazy thing that happened the other day is that because Kazatomprom announced that they're going to produce 2 or 3 million more pounds and the market crashed in
Yeah.
uranium equities. Well, that's a drop in the bucket compared to what's required out there. So I think, you know, maybe people are gone for the summer here, Lucian. It's August. They're not really thinking about equities. They'll come back in the fall and be rejuvenated after their vacation. And I hope the market starts reflecting the value. Right now, we're trading at about $1 a pound in the ground. $1. For a project that's in full construction, that's going to be the world's only greenfield uranium project of size coming on stream here the next 2 years. It's just ridiculous, the price that we're trading at right now.
Yeah. Steven Roman, CEO of Global Atomic, thank you very much for coming to my show. It was a great chat as always, and looking forward to hear new updates from you. Thank you very much.
Well, we'll be at the WNA in London in a couple of weeks. Lucy, I look forward to seeing you there.